Welcome to 40 Fit Food. My name is Oscar and this is Mimi.
Hi, we're here every Tuesday to give you some fitness tips and advice and how you can continue to do Kung Fu, Tai Chi, or whatever sport you choose into your 40s and beyond.
Perfect. This is a special episode. It's episode 75.
Woo.
And because it's so special, we are going to talk about probably the most important type of strength training that you could do, which is single leg training. So that's all I want to do. Single leg training, and how something as simple as training on one leg is transitions to pretty much every activity that you do.
Yes, and people are often really surprised by this. They're like, what do you mean by being on one leg? Because I think when people think about it, they literally think, for Kung Fu people, that, oh, we're not in golden chicken all the time. But I actually was pretty surprised by it as well, because when we went to our first round of athletic training or strength training, and I wasn't as familiar, and it was really surprising to me how many things are off of one leg.
Right. I mean, when you walk, you're not walking.
That's hopping.
That's hopping. When you're walking, you're transitioning from one leg to another, and that goes all the way from walking all the way to sprinting, right? Which is kind of the most explosive movement that we can do as human beings. And the importance of this is, when you go from being on 2 feet and just standing to just going on one leg, you've taken a movement or a position from kind of like a single plane movement to triplanar to everything, because just being on one leg adds rotational forces onto this leg. And so a lot more muscles get used just by being on one leg. And that is why there are so many benefits to training single leg. And so where do we want to go today?
Well, in terms of what you just mentioned with walking and sprinting, from the Kung Fu side, pretty much everything you do during Kung Fu is almost like transitionally happening on one leg, even though we're in a riding horse stance, right? If we're going to move into a hill climbing horse stance, we're going to transition to that one leg before we move in. Even if we're in that, lateral and we're turning, it's the same thing. You have to be able to translate that. And all of your kicks are off of one leg. So of course for Kung Fu and even Tai Chi, just the Tai Chi walk, the single leg stuff pertains to all of us.
Correct.
So this does not exclude anybody.
That's right. And we've talked about this recently and in the past, is one of the first steps to getting on one leg is you have to have a certain amount of balance, right? And we've discussed that tripod foot, or feet on the bottom of the foot. So let's just remember that you can make the whole surface of your foot touch the floor, but if you want to start focusing on balance, usually a good cue has been, think of that knuckle under the big toe, knuckle under the pinky toe, the knuckle under the heel as creating that tripod. And usually when people lose their balance, it's one of those, like the knuckle under my big toe or the knuckle under my pinky toe, that then makes you lose your balance. And so spending time here is super important in just starting to build that single leg strength, and it's a great way for us to kind of get a good baseline of where you are at. If you're not able to hold yourself up for even a few seconds, I would actually go see a doctor. It could be a neurological thing, right? If you can't even hold it like this and you have no other issues that you know of, get yourself checked out. It's either that, or on the plus side, which I always say, it's only a strength issue, no big deal. We just got to get you stronger in that position.
Okay. So if you're able to do it, then what are your go-to exercises? Obviously, for me, I know I do a lot of strength, and even for rehab type things, I love doing that single leg deadlift, which you can take as simple all the way to with serious weights and everything. So for me, that's a great exercise. Are there other ones that you consider, or is that kind of one?
Single leg deadlift is great, but if I could go into two routes, one would be a single leg deadlift, which is hinging type of motion, right? And then, or a single leg type of squatting motion, which could go from something as challenging as a pistol to something that's a little bit easier, like a split squat, which is just kind of coming up and down. So those are kind of the two ways that we would start. And then yes, you can progress it to make it super challenging, and you can regress it to make it super easy, or find you where you're at. You want to always be in a position where, one, can you take a good breath? Can you breathe in that position? And two, are you challenging yourself just enough that you're still learning, but not too much that you're not able to do it? If you're in a position that you are stumbling, you're hurting yourself, you feel pain, your body will never adapt to that because it'll go on to self-protect mode.
Okay, so which route are we taking today?
Well, let's go with single leg deadlift.
Okay.
So for single leg deadlift, just recently, just over the past few months, I have gone this way when it comes to teaching. We went over the hinge just recently. So I like to do a hinge, but with both feet together. So again, I'll demonstrate from the side here, but if you're doing it with both feet together, then you can shift your hips back and just hang out here. And what we want is the shoulders above the hips, hips above the knees, loading that posterior chain. Just from here, I can start lifting the heel of my right foot, and that puts weight onto that left leg.
Right. You feel that
So
shift.
already you feel it right there. And then I can, instead of just picking up the leg, I can slide my leg back. And again, I put more stress onto that leg, and then I stand up and repeat. That alone, I mean, if you do it correctly and you're focused, I'm like, wow, I kind of felt that, right?
All this turning on.
All those muscles, right? Remember we talked about as soon as you go from being on 2 legs to 1 leg, immediately more muscles are being recruited. So just to reiterate on that position, my shoulders are squared, my hips are squared. When I lift my heel, my shoulders and hips stay in the same position. When I slide my leg, my shoulders and hips stay in the same position. If I were to go right into a single leg deadlift, then I can sit my hips back and then just reach the leg back and stand. And then we can go right into what a single leg deadlift looks like. We can then progress that to loading it with kettlebells, 2 kettlebells, weight lift, you can make this super hard. The key is that you don't go fast. Because people bypass the balancing part quickly, this is what happens as soon as they want to jump to doing it with a weight, and it's like things are just moving, and that just means you've gone too fast, youngster. Just slow yourself down.
So how many? Or are we doing the breathing thing? What do we recommend so that our listeners and viewers can follow along? So if
recommendation.
I were the working out, you're gonna say, okay.
Recommendation is feet starting together, pick up 1 leg. Can you hold that for up to 30 seconds? Check. Second thing, feet together, sitting your hips back in that hinge. Pick 1 heel up. Are you able to do that? No pain. Can you hang out there and stand up and do multiple reps of kind of this staggered stance deadlift? Check. Multiple reps, maybe up to 10.
Okay.
Then we add the sliding part, where you slide the leg back, standing up, get a few sets of 10, maybe 2 to 3 sets of 10. This is not all in the same day. This is over the course of weeks, possibly. And then you've built up the right amount of strength to then go straight single leg body weight. And again, because we're doing it body weight slowly, I like to do a slow inhale, 2, 1, and then quickly standing up, kind of get explosive up there. Again, body weight exercises, I'm cool with reps anywhere between 8 to 12. And then you would load it. And once you load it, then that changes the amount of reps that you do. So you would grab a kettlebell and do it that way. If you do grab a weight, I like to grab the weight let me demonstrate my other leg. But if I'm holding it on my left arm, my left leg is going to go back. Some people immediately start getting balance issues when they go into a weight. So we can go back to the hinge, slide back, stand, and then work our way to doing it free weight.
And you can even do it with 2 hands.
You can do it with 2 hands. Yes, absolutely. 2 hands here, sitting back and going forward. I think it's a little bit more challenging or more beneficial over time to be here with 1 leg, and because you're creating this kind of cross line. And then what you want to work yourself up to really is as much weight as you can safely hold in 1 hand. Like for me, I'm going to only demonstrate 1 rep. This is the heaviest bell that I have, which is up to 70 pounds. But if I'm here, this is about as heavy as I would probably want to go for reps of 5. Slowly, and you see the pace that I'm going. 4 sets of 5. And that's how I would progress the single leg deadlift.
So just to reiterate the importance of this, because I feel like those of us who do Kung Fu, especially Kung Fu and Tai Chi, we, without knowing it, I think we're tricked into it, we do a lot of single leg work because we're doing kicks on 1 leg, we're demanding like things where we're crossing over and we're moving. So we, I think people who do dance and a lot of movement exercise where they're not necessarily using apparatus, I think we tend to have that benefit where we are actually doing that single leg work without it being concentrated in reps per se. But I feel like when it comes to strength training, maybe we've met a lot of youths that do athletics and there's not a high emphasis. Would you say that's kind of a mistake to not do, like, you know, everything is 2 feet and, you know, they do a lot of Olympic stuff, which I'm not saying any of that's not good, but I'm saying for a lot of athletes that need to run or do anything where they're working on their agility and their strength, is this kind of like looked over?
I have found that it still is, unless you are at the highest level of the sport.
Right.
So people like Mike Boyle.
Unless you're going to Mike Boyle strength and conditioning,
Right.
You're getting a lot of amazing single leg work.
But also he's influenced so many people, including myself, on the importance of single leg training. They're calling it unilateral training, and the benefits of that translate directly into sports. So it is becoming more pronounced. But if you are in any sport and you're doing strength training as a something to supplement your training for your sport, but you're not doing single leg work, then yes, you are missing out on super important training modality that can benefit you on the field, off the field, etc.
Yeah, I mean, we mostly here focus on those of you 40 and up, so, you know, you may not be just getting into some sort of new sport and thinking you're going to go professional, but it's super important because it also helps prevent injury, I find, you know, and then, you know, we're talking to my local cousin in Canada and never really doing single leg stuff, so that's a shout out to you, Tyler.
Yeah,
Get your
Tyler.
single leg deadlift stuff in. It's super important for hockey and all of those good things. But you were going to mention.
Right, so yes, Tyler, start doing single leg stuff, like single leg deadlifts. But especially for our crowd, people who are watching, if you're over 40, you don't need to. I'm not saying don't, but you don't need to do bilateral 2-leg training. If, let's say specifically you are 40 and up and you're doing Kung Fu training, you don't need to do the 2-legged squats, you know, regular squats. You don't need to do heavy deadlifts. You can do single leg deadlifts and you can do single leg squatting type of movements, and that will be enough, and actually probably would be more beneficial for you because there's a less likelihood of you hurting your back by doing single leg stuff, because you simply have to earn the right to get into that position.
Yeah, your body almost automatically helps defend against it.
Yes.
Right?
Whereas if you get on a machine where you're pushing weight on or you get on a Smith machine or squats, you can load that up very heavily to a point where you can hurt yourself and not be prepared for it. But single leg training is not that way. You need to have the balance component first.
All right, so get out there, do your single leg work. Let us know how it goes. Let us know if you have any questions. We're here every Tuesday. Subscribe, share, let others know about the wonder of 40 Fit Fu. Thank you guys for joining us. See you next week.